We're learning this in English. Yeah. Start first line for Muslim Sarah. There's two people in the same show. Misha and Misha. Okay, we're going to start Lamed Aleph on the top. 31A. So it starts like this. Taner Rabbanan. It was put in a brisa. Sukka Gzula. Stolen sukkah. B'mesachech b'shus harabim. And someone that sets up his sukkah in Rosh Hashanah in a public area, but she doesn't have a right to set up his sukkah there. It's not his area. This would be you set it up in a parking lot or something. You know, that you don't own that spot. People think they can do this. They can go to I don't know, sometimes apartment buildings or something. They take someone else's spot. Yeah, can't set up a sukkah there. I mean, if it's in the car and they allow you to park, so fine. But to take it off the car, it's not a parking space. It's not a place for you to set up your tent. Do they let you set up a tent there and you go to sleep? I don't know. It could be a problem. So if you have permission, that's a good start. But Rabbi Eliezer Paisel v'chachamim machshirim. So a stolen sukkah and a sukkah in Rosh Hashanah, it's a machlekes. Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanes. He says that it's possible. The chachamim say that it's kosher. Amar Rav Nachman. Nachman, many years later, comes along and he explains the machlekes. Machlekes b'shetekev es chaver v'yitziyah misukasei. In the story, when we said a sukkah gzula, there's a lot of ways of describing a sukkah gzula. Someone could steal a sukkah from the Judaica, store, and he stole a sukkah. You could steal it from Home Depot. It could also be that this fellow had actually built his sukkah already, and you went over to the owner of the sukkah that's sitting there, and you lifted him up, you took him out, and then you sat down. He's still the sukkah. So that's the machlekes. Rabbi Eliezer l'tamei, and Rabbi Eliezer is following his opinion. First of all, you can't be yaitz with someone else's sukkah. I don't care if it's stolen or if it's borrowed. So ikar can exelis. If it's stolen, then there's a problem of sukkah guzula. It's a stolen sukkah. The problem of a stolen sukkah, Rashi tells us, is Rabbi Eliezer Darshan's taselacha. You have to make it for you, which means it needs to be yours and it can't be stolen or borrowed. The same pasuk lecha. Taselacha. Remember what the pasuk is. Whatever it is, that pasuk lecha tells me that it can't be stolen. Yeah, the Mefarshim ask, what about mitzvah b'avera? Like, how come that's not an issue? Yeah, so he learns from the law that it needs to be yours, and it excludes two types of sukkahs: borrowed or stolen.
Can't borrow sukkah.
According to Rabbi Eliezer, you can't borrow a sukkah. It has to be your own sukkah. So, yeah, what about the mitzvah b'avera, which seems to be an obvious issue? And according to Rabbi Eliezer, you can't. What about the it's not good according to Rabbi Eliezer. We don't hold it, Rabbi Eliezer. Yeah. What about the sukkah hopping? Yeah. Vinami, very good. Vinami. So either we say that it's, you see, there's a machlekes if karka nigzelas, we consider land stolen, or is it always in the possession of the original owner? Because you didn't really take it, you went on it, but you didn't take it. So, and it's based on how the darshan sukkah. If we say karka is nigzelas, and it's in the possession of the new owner, then you have a problem of tasalacha. You didn't acquire it properly. It needs to be yours properly. The inami karkain exelas, and even if you say it's not stolen, so then who owns it? The original owner. So then, if that's the case, then sukkah shuli, then it's a borrowed sukkah. And Rebbe Lezer holds that a borrowed sukkah is yaitza. Even though there was a guy sitting in it, you lifted the guy up, you put him outside the sukkah, and you go and sit down, and you say, "Well, I'm borrowing it." Rebbe Lezer holds that that's not yaitza. So that's why Rebbe Lezer says that it's possible. He's paisel. Rabbanan l'tamaya, the Rabbanan say that it's kosher. The Amri, a person could be yaitza with someone else's sukkah. The karkain and exelas. It's not stolen, so who owns it? The sukkah shuli. It's a borrowed sukkah. Okay, all of that is Reb Nachman's explanation of the machlekes. Why does he have to tell me that that's a machlekes? Maybe he stole it from Home Depot. But if you stole wood and you use them for schach, and everyone says that the yaitza, the sukkah, and you only have to return the value of the sukkah that you stole, the schach that you stole, right? Stolen schach mats, according to Reb Nachman, your yaitza. It's stolen. Yeah, I don't know if Elias wants to hear this. Sure. Right. It's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. This is a huge chiddush that we're saying that a stolen sukkah is kosher, according to everyone. Umar says mimai, but how do you know that this is the pshat? How does Reb Nachman know that this is the pshat? Maybe it's the other way. Maybe it's actually a stolen sukkah. If he actually steals schach, maybe it's puzzle. According to Rebbe Lezer. Why are you telling me that it's kosher? Midiktani demidir shesarabin. My shesarabin karka lav didehu. Sakanami lav karka didehu. There's two cases that were next to each other. One was the Rosh Hashanah and one was a stolen sukkah. We think that those two cases would be similar, in the same category. Both of them are sukkahs that don't really belong to him. The land doesn't belong to him. So we're talking about where the sukkah was already built, and you just went inside and lifted the guy up and put him outside, and you sat down. Yeah, that's how we know that this is the pshat in this. Yeah. Okay. Let's see possibly how to answer. Answer Yessi's question. Yessi was asking, why is it different than Lulav Eresek? It's still schach. Both of the Lulav and Esek is both pacha. You steal schach, it's kosher. Why was it stolen Lulav? Why was it stolen Lulav? Awesome. If it's on the first day, then we said Mishalachem. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. 1 second, I have to explain what you said. If it's the first day of Sukkot, the stolen lulav is possible because it says L'kachtem lachem, it needs to be yours. There's a problem with it, it's stolen. If it's the rest of Sukkot, it doesn't say L'kachtem lachem b'yamrishin. The rest of Sukkot, so then it should be kosher. The only thing is, it's a mitzvah b'baveh. So by the Sukkah, maybe they don't darshan l'cha. They don't darshan lach, rather. So they say that it's kosher. What about Rabbi Eliezer? He does darshan lach. He's talking about Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. According to Rebbe Lesser, it should be possible anyway because it's not law. No. We're saying that there's a Shini Maisa. Shini Maisa, that you changed it from wood. It went from wood into schach. You did something different. Shini Maisa, Shini Hashem. So it's not a problem. There's a real kinyan over there, so it actually becomes yours. Okay, but I have another problem. What about a mitzvah b'averim? Maybe when you switch it, it's not a mitzvah b'averim anymore. That's probably a shot. But going back to the Rabbanon, what about when I didn't switch it? And they just don't darshan law. So why should I be Yitzah? So I said mitzvah b'averim. That Moshe says that like this, that the lulav in esrog is a mitzvah. Yes. Right. It's a mitzvah. Yeah. I don't know if it's like the object of the mitzvah, or maybe it's the mitzvah that it's a mitzvah saseh. It's a mitzvah saseh that I have to fulfill. Dwelling in the sukkah, there could be like exemptions from that. It's a different sort of mitzvah, dwelling in the sukkah than doing the.
Then he didn't access the stop, and he just sort of structured the stop. Maybe he just sort of bought took the frame and took on and then he put the song about that.
And what was stolen? Schach. Oh, over here it says schach. That's what it sounds like. Doesn't relate to Masechah. Yeah, I could always say if it's the frame, I would say, well, the frame is not really the sukkah. It sounds like it's a schach. And nevertheless, we're saying that it's kosher. Okay, listen to this story. Yeah, I have no explanation for the story. Let's take a look. He shafted us for the comedy of Nachman. There was an old woman that came in front of Rav Nachman. Amra lei, she says to him, Reish Galusa v'kula rabbanan de Reish Galusa b'sukkah gzula haviyasvi. The Reish Galusa and all the people of the Reish Galusa, they're sitting in a stolen sukkah. Apparently, they had stolen wood from this woman. The servant had stolen wood. Savcha v'layashka, Rav Nachman. She's screaming, and Rav Nachman's not paying any attention to her. Amra lei. So she says to him, "It's a woman whose father has 318 servants is screaming in front of you. You're not paying any attention." Amar lahu Rav Nachman, this is like a complainer, a witch. She doesn't get anything, just gets wood. Just the value of the wood, not even the wood. She just gets the payment for the wood. In other words, even if it's stolen, the sukkah of the Reish Galusa is still kosher because that wood belongs to them, and they just have a bill. Pay the bill.
Well,
okay, that's it.
No,
no. There's two ways of looking at it. Either I say that whatever I have is mine, but I owe you money, or I say even what I have is not mine. So she was saying,
it's like walking from people not paying, but I'll pay later.
So you not easy when it's kosher.
No, well, she was gonna. Dr. Stein. So, look, someone walks into Home Depot and he walks straight out the door without paying for his goods. Are they going to say, okay, take it home. We have your address. We'll send you a bill. Or are they going to say, put it back, please? You know, you can't take anything. They're going to say, put it back, right? Here we're saying that the woman, here we're going to say that the Reish Galusa had taken the or the wood for the sukkah and used it already. Now she's saying, put it back. So Rav Nachman is saying, no, she doesn't have to put it back. The Reish Galusa doesn't have to put it back. They just have a bill.
I'm saying, why don't we say the first?
Well, that fits the story.
Why don't we say this for every type of sukkah? Oh, no. So that's because this is a support for Rav Nachman's halacha before. The machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim that say that a sukkah is puzzle, a stolen sukkah is puzzle, is not a case where someone stole wood. It's only a case where the sukkah was already built, and you took the guy and you put him outside and you sat down. But if you actually took wood, you talk the yaitza. And Rav Nachman, you see, Rav Nachman says yaitza. Okay, I got this email from it's called Teres Chacham. It's Shemaiah Morgenstern. Anyway, it's like a Rebbe in Shalim, I think. Anyway, he has like these very long Divrei Torah. So in one of them, it had this Gemara. He was saying how, according to Kabbalah, he was explaining that this woman is really from Klippa, and what Rav Nachman was doing, who she represented, and this. Anyway, Amar Ravina says, "Hai keshira de metalasa de guzula avila rabbanan takanti mishum takanas meresh." Okay, there's a concept of meresh. Meresh is a beam. There's a takanas meresh. Takanas meresh, the institution of the beam is that if someone stole building materials and he wants to do tshuva, they said that you don't have to take apart the building that you built. You can just pay for it. This would be a huge loss if you have to take it apart and take the beam out and give it back. So in order to encourage people to do tshuva, so they made this takana that, okay, we know you have the history or whatever, but just pay for it. Same thing applies to a sukkah. If you have a beam of a sukkah, that is we say that it's going to be, the sukkah is going to be kosher, and you just have to pay for that beam. Umar says, Pshita, yeah, we understood that. What's the difference from the wood? You said the schach, that if someone takes schach, that it's kosher. So if someone steals a beam, it should also be kosher. Well, maybe schach, we don't make you return it, because what's the difference? The schach that this guy has, schach is easy to come by. So we say we don't make him return it, because the original owner will get the money or whatever, and he'll go find other schach. But when it comes to a beam, which is not as common, maybe we say that he has to take it apart and give it back. The chiddush is that he doesn't have to. Hani mili b'goy shiva. All of this is only during Sukkot. But after Sukkot, you have to return it. But if you built it in, then even after Sukkot, then you don't have to return it. Similar, you built it in, means it's chaver betina. You used cement then it's not temporary anymore, and then it's a big deal to take it apart. Well, the schach, here we're talking about a beam from the walls, probably, or the frame. You're right, though. But does the sukkah have to be temporary? No. Sukkah doesn't have to be temporary.
It can't be solid.
It can be solid. Just the schach can. No, the walls of the sukkah could be. Yeah, you're asking because at the beginning of the Masechta, Rabbi Yehuda held that sukkah that's about 20 amas is kosher because it's permanent. And the Chachamim argued, they said that it needs to be temporary. They said no. We learned that it doesn't really need to be temporary. It needs to be built lower in a way that it's possible to build it temporary. Not that it really needs to be temporary. Yeah. Remember the case where they had walls of a house that the roof collapsed? So he puts half on top. So those of that house is permanent. Just the roof was temporary. Okay, we start a new discussion now. Tana. Start in the Brisa. Yavish Pasel. Rabbi the Machsha. If it's dried out, it's Pasel. Rabbi says it's kosher if it's dried out. What are we talking about? Amar Rava. Rava says we're talking about machlekes belulav. That Brisa is machlekes. That machlekes in the Brisa, that's referring to a lulav. Where Rabbi Yehuda actually holds that a lulav is kosher if it's dry. The Rabbanan Savri Makshin and lulav lesra. The Rabbanan say that I compare a lulav to an esrog. My esrog by hadar, af lulav by hadar. Just like an esrog needs to be hadar. How do you know esrog needs to be hadar? It says it's hadar. It needs to be beautiful. So too the lulav needs to be beautiful. That's what the Rabbanan say. It's possible. Rabbi Yisrael lei Makshin and lulav lesra. And Rabbi says no. An esrog needs to be beautiful. The lulav does not need to be beautiful, and therefore, if it's dried, it's still kosher. Aval be'esrog. But the esrog itself, the Brakal Hadabina. Everyone holds that it needs to be hadar. There's no machlekes about an esrog. Now it turns out that it's not so pashut, because when the pasuk says priyat hadar, not necessarily does it mean hadar as in beautiful. Some say that it needs to dwell on the sukkah hadar bi'ilan hadar is really like hadar bi'ilan mishana l'shana, as we'll see later.
Again?
And it doesn't really need to be hadar. It dwells on the tree the whole year. It takes a long time for it to develop.
Yeah.
To return, like
Yeah.
all right. I don't know if that's one of the pshatim. One of the pshatim in the Gemara is that it's hydro. It's actually that it's all the water the whole year. It's actually a Greek word. Yeah, Rashi quotes that over here. That's Gemara later. So what we're saying here is that it's not that, forget those pshatim. Rabbi Yehuda holds hadar by esrog means hadar, and it needs to be beautiful. And the lulav is just not compared to the esrog. The lulav doesn't have to be beautiful. The Gemara now asks, we're going to have two challenges about this, about Rabbi Yehuda not requiring hadar for a lulav. We're going to have two challenges for Rabbi Yehuda not requiring the esrog to be hadar. So both statements of Rava are going to be challenged over here twice. The first one was Ubelulav Rabbi Yehuda hadar. Rabbi Yehuda holds a lulav doesn't need to be beautiful. But we have a Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Yagdanam Al-Maila. It says if the leaves are spread out, you have to tie it. My time, La Mishum Dubai hadar. Obviously, why you have to tie it? Because we need it to be beautiful. It says like the Tani time Rabbi Yehuda Shem Rab Tarpin Kapis Tmarim Kafes. The Maya Party Kafsana. It says Kapis Tmarim. Kapis Tmarim means a date palm branches. I like it's an interesting thing because kav means a palm, and it also means a palm tree. It also means a palm. All right. So kafus means tie.
Okay, but also from the word cup,
Oh,
hence
have to be tied. Right. We'll see that also. So what we're learning over here is Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Reb Tarfon that the lulav needs to be tied. Nothing to do with hadar. We thought that it had to do with hadar, and we're saying the lulav needs to be hadar. What are you telling me that a dried lulav is kosher? There's no dried lulav. A dried lulav is taka kosher. But what about the hadar? What about they have to tie it? It says that's because of a pasuk, not because of hadar. Well, by hadar, but it doesn't require hadar. But tanan inagdim salulav el b'minai divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that when you tie the lulav, you can only use its own species. So we use the lulav leaves to tie the lulav. You can't take something else. You can't tie it with other things. My time, why not? Because if you take other things, it's not going to look nice. So probably the reason why you have to tie it with its own species is because of hadar. So we have a question: why does he say that if it's dried out, it's kosher? Gemara says why? It's not so, because Rava says that you can use sieve. There's some sort of growth that grows around the lulav tree, that you can use that as well, even though it looks totally different than the lulav. You can use the bark also. It's not that the hadar is that it looks the same, and the tying it is because it needs to be hadar, because you can use other things that don't look at all like the lulav, and nevertheless it's going to be kosher. So why does it own? Well, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. So then why does it say it has to be minai? It says hasam de kasar v'lulav tzarich haged. B'maisi mina achrina havli chamisha mina. It says because the lulav needs to be tied. Why does he have to have that in? I think the main point over here is, let me see. Sieve is a typa, is part of the palm. So yeah, what he's saying is like this. Right. So no, so the problem is like this. The sieve is kosher to use. The ikr dikla, which is probably the bark, is also used. Is also kosher to use. So why does Rabbi Yehuda say that you're allowed to use those items and you can't use any other item? What's the difference? He says the difference is because I can only have 4 species. I can't have 5 species. If I take dental floss, to tie up my lulav or something, shoelace, then I have 5 species. I can't use. I can only use the 4 species. Now, so he adds in that because of lulav tzarich heged, it needs to be tied. So whatever I'm going to tie it with is going to be counted as part of this bundle. So therefore, I can only use lulav type things. Now the Gemara says, the statement of Rava that says that this machlekes yavish pasal Rabbi Yehuda machshir is about a lulav. Based on that, we understood that the esrog, everyone agrees, needs to be hadar. Rabbi Yehuda holds the esrog needs to be hadar. But Tanya, arba saminim shabalulav kshem shein peichsim meyan kachim esipin alayim. The same way that you can't have less than 4 species, you can't have more than 4 species. Loy matz esrog. Let's say you don't find an esrog. There's no esrog. So lo yavi prish. Can't bring a prish. Doesn't tell me what a prish is.
Fine.
Yeah, it does. It says coronia. I don't know what that is. Any translations of that? Yeah. What is it, prish? The quince. Not bring a quince. Yeah, quince is it's like an apple shape. You just have to cook it. You can't bring a pomegranate. Can't bring another mingvix. Any other fruits, you can't bring it a lot. Say, that's my essay. Kamushin kasherin yaveshim psulin. If it's like withering, is that the word for kamushin? Withering. If it's withered, that's kosher. But if it's dry, then it's pasul. And Rabbi Yehuda And Rabbi Yehuda says, even if it's dried, it's kosher. You see what's going on? Rabbi Yehuda holds the dried esrog is kosher. This contradicts Rava. Rava said that when Rabbi Yehuda says it's dried, it's kosher, that was talking about a lulav. But by an esrog, you would say that it's pasul. Now we're saying even by an esrog, it's kosher. Rabbi Yehuda says, Maisa b'bnei Trachim. There's a story, people from these cities. They would bequeath their lulav to their grandchildren. The children would get all the money. Yeah, the grandchildren would be left with the lulav. No, what it's saying is that they didn't have access to the fields. Yeah. They thought that fruits and vegetables come from the freezer. They didn't know that they didn't have access to the orchards. So So they would bequeath the lulav and esrog to the children. They got one that was like a big deal. So you see, you're allowed to use the dried out one according to Rabbi Yehuda. Amar lahem or amar lai misham raya ein shasat chak raya. Can't bring a proof from that. That was a shasat chak. They didn't have anything else. They wanted them to know what a lulav and esrog is, so they left it even though it's dried out. They kept it. So, but doesn't mean that you're allowed to use a dried out esrog. That's what they were telling. Whatever the case is, Rabbi Yehuda see, Rabbi Yehuda holds an esrog that's dried out is kosher. It's a kasha and rava. Now, when you read that brisa, it doesn't look like it's saying that, but you could say that. It says Arba minim shabalulav. The 4 species, you can't have less than 4. You can have more than 4. You can't bring a quince or pomegranate or anything else. If it's dried out, it's kosher. If it's withered, it's kosher. If it's dried out, it's pasul. Rabbi Yehuda says even if it's dried out. Now, what is he talking about? We're talking about all 4 species. So we're saying he's talking about the esrog, and that's a kasha. So, well, say it's not the esrog and it's not a kasha. Say it's the lulav. Okay. Amar Mar, we go back to examine one of the things that we mentioned. Just like you can't have less than 4, you can't have more than 4. The Gemara says, Pshita, of course. Gemara is a great way of learning this. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you have to tie the lulav. It needs to be tied. So you tie the lulav. Let's see, together with tying the lulav, you also have something else in your hand, your cell phone. So it's not part of the tie. So I could have thought that it's not a problem because it's not inside the tie. Lulav tzarech it needs to be tied. This isn't tied.
You mean if you're holding your lulav at the same time?
The answer. Yes, on the phone. So he's taking 5 species.
Can't do that one.
What?
No, and it's a chiddush. It's a chiddush because Rabbi Yehuda holds lulav tzarech eged because it needs to be tied. I could have thought that only things that are inserted into the tie. Big chiddush, kamashma, even things that are.
No, anything that you're holding
while you're holding the lulav and esrog.
So saying you're shaking the lulav, you're holding it.
Yeah.
My fault.
A watch isn't the problem. What about a ring?
You're not holding it.
You're not really holding it. That's interesting. Maybe that's why in the yeshiva world, the men don't wear wedding ring. Yeah. Right. We never tell the women not to pick up the rings. Maybe because they're not mechuyev in anyway. Now the reason why the yeshiva world, the men don't wear rings, is because they don't exchange rings at the wedding. There's a problem of exchanging rings. Because she might think that part of the kedushin is her giving him the ring. And that's not the kedushin at all. It's him giving her. They don't exchange rings. If they want to give a ring, it has to be done later. That's just a gift. It's fine. She can give a gift. It's not about you can tell her that she should give you a. Amar Mar. Okay, we learned, it was taught, look, it changes the order. Shouldn't bring a pomegranate, a quince, or something else. The Gemara says, Pshita. Obviously, it's not an esrog. Well, maybe you should do it so that people should remember that there is a concept of an esrog. You should bring a lemon, bring an orange, grapefruit, a pomelo, something else. So When we say Kamash Malan, don't do that. We don't want the kids to grow up saying, my father used a Pamela. It's perfectly fine. We don't want them to say that. So don't do it. Don't do anything like that. You can, in one place, Rabbi Huda said they would use an old withered one or a dried one. That's different because that was a real esrog. Someone may say, my father used to dry one. I don't know. Rabbi Huda said that the dry one is kosher. Right. I don't know. Withered, we said. Also we said that dry was the lulav. It was talking about the lulav. But nevertheless, it's the same question. Okay. Tashma, stored in a Bryce Esrik Hayoshin puzzle. An old Esrik is puzzle. Rabbi the Machshir, Rabbi the says that it's kosher. Well, this is quite a problem because Rava said before that everyone agrees that the dried out esrog is puzzle. Now we're having an old esrog being kosher. Tifta the Rava, Tifta. It's very strong. Is this a question on Rava? Yes, this is a strong question on Rava. They didn't have freeze drying, keeping it fresh. Maybe they did. Apparently, Yoshin is also dry. Apparently, it has to go hand in hand. Now the Gemara says, Hadar. Obviously, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't require Hadar for an esrog. He doesn't require Hadar. But we have a Mishnah, Hayarika Karti, Reb Meir Machshir, Rabbi the Paisel. If it's green, like a leek, the esrog. Reb Meir says it's kosher, Rabbi says it's pasal. Lav Misham, the Bayahada. Why does Rabbi say it's pasal? Because it's not beautiful. Green is not beautiful. Maybe by Esther. Well, the Gemara says like, that's not the reason. Misham Delay Gomer Peira. Because it's not ripe. It's not considered a fruit yet. Tashma, Shir Esrog Katan, Reb Meir Emekegas, Rabbi the Mikabeya. What's the size of a small esrog? Reb Meir says it's like a walnut, and Rabbi Yehuda says it's like the size of an egg. Why does Rabbi Yehuda say it needs to be the size of an egg? Because he wants it to be beautiful, bigger. It's beautiful. The Gemara says why Mishum Blei Gomer Peira. He wants it to be bigger because he wants it to be right. Tashema ubegadol kadesh yachud shnayim biyadei achas to Rabbi Yehuda. A large esrog. What's the maximum size of an esrog? You have to be able to hold two of those in one hand. Larger than that is too large. Rabbi Yossi says no. An esrog could be, you have to be able to hold one esrog in two hands, not two esrogim in one hand. So they can get these big ones, yeah.
Like a watermelon.
A rubbish esrog. So, my time, Allah Misham Dubai Hadar. It must be, why does Rabbi Yehuda hold it shouldn't be so big? Because too big is also not nice. It says like, Kiman Dama Rava, it says Rava, used to be Rava probably. Lulav be a min vesrig b'smal, some the Machalfile, Vasilaf Chinu, Vasilaf Sule. No, Rabbi Yehuda, the reason why he said that it needs to be able to hold two in one hand, because sometimes you may have it in the wrong hands. You have the lulav in the right hand and esrog in the left. Sometimes you may end up with the lulav in the left and esrog in the right. So you're going to want to switch it. Now, if it takes two hands or a whole hand to hold the esrog, you might end up dropping the esrog and it's going to become puzzle. So therefore, you can't have an esrog that's larger than two can fit in one hand. But if Rabbi Yehuda holds that a dried esrog is kosher, what about the hadar? It says in the pasuk. It says Havu hadar bilana mishana l'shana. That's coming to tell me that it lives on the tree for a whole year. They're fruits that they take like 12 months or more. Yeah. You know that
You know we have-
monastera, let's see, it's like a long green thing. It grows on the bush.
We
18
had
months.
That's what we did.
Oh, really?
So we're ready to pick up.
It's scaled and it falls out. It ripens. Yeah. But 18 months you have to wait. But it's already on the bush. You just have to watch it for 18 months. That's what they say. That's what they say. Okay. Asherah tree is a tree that's worshipped. And the Erni Dachas is a city that needs to be destroyed. The Asherah tree doesn't necessarily need to be destroyed. If it's owned by a Jew, it does. But if it's owned by a non-Jew, it's an idol. If it's in the land of Israel, it's a problem. You were supposed to destroy all of them when you came in. But otherwise, I mean, it's his own idol. I don't have to go around destroying non-Jews' idols. B'shel Asherah pasal. But nevertheless, Asherah, it says an Asherah tree is it's pasal. One second. Rabbi says a lulav from Avodah Zarah. If there was a lulav that was used for Avodah Zarah, they used it as a broom or something. You're allowed to go and shake it. You're not supposed to, but if you did, it was you were yaitza. And here we're saying that it's possible. Where it says Hacha b'Asherah de Moshe Eskina. He was talking about an Asherah tree that came from the time of Moshe, long time ago. It's an old tree.
Then how would you know that people sent them?
What's the problem? Because when the people were coming into the land of Israel, they were told that they needed to destroy all the trees, that they needed to burn them, just like in Erni Dachas, that needs to be burnt. If that's the case, that it needed to be burnt, then it's considered as if it was burnt. And once it's burnt, it doesn't have a shear in its puzzle. It has it in the same phrase as Asherah v'shel Erni Dachas. It must be the same reason for both of them, which is that they both are supposed to have been burnt.
How they know?
Around from there's a plaque.
Yeah, I was just the plaque.
Yeah, this is a historical landmark. Okay. Yeah, they have this Yiddish translator. I forget it was one of the kids' things years ago. Almost crossing the border. So he had in his trunk. They asked him. They only spoke Yiddish. They said, "What is that?" So he says, "It's sneakers for Tisha B'Av." So what did he say? So he says it's sneakers for the destruction of the temple. He said, how long ago was the temple destroyed? He said, how long ago? He says 2,000 years ago. The whole thing came out like ridiculous. Like these 2,000-year-old shoes. That was the message that the guy was getting. Anyway, so here you have a 3,000-year-old tree, with the lulav. How old is this lulav? Okay. Nikdam Raishai, its top is cut off. This is 100 shatim in every piece of Gemara over here. It's brought down in halacha. So, what does this mean? Each thing. The top is cut off. That's only if it's cut off. Nistak, but if it's split, that's going to be kosher. Oh, really? Nistak kosher? A lulav that's split is kosher? But Tanya, we have a brisa. Lulav kafaf, a bent lulav. Bent is going to mean bent forward, not bent backwards. Sometimes a little bent back a little bit, but bent forward is a problem. Kivets, if it has little thorns growing out of it, saduk, or if it's split, that's going to be our problem. Akam daimilamagal, if it curves, similar to a sickle. Puzzle, charus, if it hardened, it's puzzle. Daimilacharus, it's similar to being. If it's similar to being hard, then it's kosher. Okay, we have a question over here because one of the things that we said was puzzle was if it's split. And we said before, only if the top is cut off, not if it's split. Amarav Papa, David Kimne. There's two types of split. There's it's just a simple split, and then there's a split cut like a hymnic. Hymnic is a tongs. What? A tongs. They use to, yeah, that was the pliers, I think. I think we tie it because we consider it more beautiful if it's tied, not because we hold like Rabbi Yehuda that full of tzarech again. I think we just hold that it's more beautiful if it's tied. I think, but yeah, there is a side benefit that if you tie it, it won't split as well the same way. That's a side benefit. But it would be possible if it's a kihimnek. It means a big split, like a V. Now we say akam daimalamal amarava. If it's curved, similar to a sickle, it's a problem. Amarava, Rava says la yamranel lefanav avala acharav braisehu. If it's backwards, if it's curved backwards, that's not a problem. It's only if it's bent forwards. And what was kafa? What's the difference kafa and akam?
Maybe akam is sideways.
I know, but he's saying that it means lefanav. I would think it means sideways also. Maybe what it means is kafaf means that the top of the branches themselves are bent, not the full growth of the lulav, the spine, not the full growth of the lulav. Talking about the top of it. Yeah, there's 100 pshatim and everything over here. Yeah, if you open up the B'Yosef, you go through the Rishonim on this Gemara. There's like so many different pshatim. For example, kafaf, which is puzzle. Alter Rebbe says one of the pshatim, quotes one of the pshatim for this is if it has called knepel. Knepel is the top of the lulav. It's like a little twist on it. So that's kafaf. Some people say that that's a hither because it's for sure not split. Some people say, yeah, great, it's not split, but it's kafaf. Yeah, we hold that it's kosher, but the other, like as it's coming, Chabad, they don't take it. They don't look for the knepel. Other places they want a knepel. You know what I'm talking? Knepel is. It could be sometimes the lulav it's sharp, it like pokes you. Sometimes it's bent a little bit on the top.
Yeah.
And people look for it.
Why is it?
Because it's not going to split. Those are tighter.
You don't want that?
So some people do want it, and Chabad, they don't look for those. They avoid it. Okay, just an example of one of the shots.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I always thought those were smart businessmen because I go in and two people be in line and one would ask about it. He says, no, this is not for you. And then the next go, oh, this is Nahuda. This is exactly what you're looking for. And I could never figure out what's going on. You just explained this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When you're buying an esrog, it's a different thing. You go into the store, they come to you, they say, I have an esrog for you. They go to the back and they come out, this is for you. You have to open up the box and start to look. He says, don't look at it. I'm telling you, this is for you. Okay. Yeah. Years ago, they would have a l'chaim. It was a whole sale. It was like, selling a house. It was a big deal. I don't see it. The Shivas Regal bottle was sitting in the estrogim. There's a pile of estrogim it was like slanted on the. Okay. Amar Rav Nachman. Okay, we said let's study. Rav Nachman says let's study kilafan of dummy. What about if it's bent to the side? So he says, oh, that's a big problem. That's like it's bent forward. V'amila kalachar of dummy. And some say that no, it's kosher. So the side is okay. It's similar to being bent backwards, which is acceptable. Rava says, hi lulva, the salak b'chad hitza, balmumhu pasal. There's another bunch of pshatim in this. Rava says that a lulav that only has leaves on one side is a balmum and it's pasal. Another pshat in this is that every leaf is supposed to be doubled. But if it's it's salak bechad utza. If it only has single,
But it grew like that.
it grew like that. It's possible. That's another pshat. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Nifritzu alav if it's spread out. Amar of Papa nifritzu the abed kichufya. Nifritzu spread out actually means more than spread out. It means that it was pulled off, spread out and pulled off. And then, so what's it doing over there? You tied it back on like you would tie a broom. Nifridu, the ifrid. Nifridu just means that it's spread out. So nifridu was kosher, but nifritzu was possible. Rav Papa has a question. Nechlakat yumasmau. Let's say the twin is split. There's a bunch of pshatim in this. Rashi says there's two top leaves, and that they come down would be the top of the spine. So if it's split all the way into the spine, Tashema, Amar Rav Yochanan, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Maybe Reb Masan, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Not familiar with that. Nitlat yumes pasal. If it's removed, then it's pasal. My love. Yeah, I'm not sure. On the side of my Gemara, I have Reb Masan, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. It must be a different gersa. I guess this is a quote. Yeah, at least the next Gemara is quoted. Okay, so it says that if the twin is removed, so then it's a problem. My love, is it not? That if it's split, it's also a problem. It says nitla shani v'chasala. No, nitla is a problem, not if it's split. Okay, sounds like it's kosher. The other statement was exactly the opposite. That no, if it's nechlaka, it's as if it's removed. If it's split, it's as if it's removed. Yes, so some people learn this that it means the tiyumas is the twin of it because each leaf is a twin and the top leaf is split, and it's a problem. Some say it's talking about the majority of all the leaves on the lulav. It's nechlaka. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda says that you're supposed to tie it on the top. If it's spread out, yagdenim al-maila, you tie it on the top. Tanya, started in a brayz for Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Reb Tarfon kapis tamarim. It says the name of Reb Tarfon kapis tamarim that palm branches kafis, you tie it. In my yapari yikafteno. If it was separated, you tie it together. Amalei Ravina leRavashi mimai dai kapis tamarim delul vahu emacharusa beinan. Emacharusa. How do you know that it's talking about the young branches? Maybe it's talking about the hardened branches already, it's spread out. He says, well, you have to be able to tie it. Once it's hardened, you can't tie it together. It's just going to pop out at the time. Maybe it's talking about the actual wood of the palm tree. It says kafas machal. If it's the actual wood of the palm tree, then it says you have to tie it. So you need something that could be separated that needs to be tied. But this is always tied. Okay. Kufra is the young tree. Apparently it's very prickly. There's the ways of the Torah are peaceful and pleasant. And if you would have to take this would be telling you that you have to take a sabra. Or it torments, the things will get stuck in. Yeah. Amale Rava Tesfa Ravina. Rava Tesfa, which apparently means that he was an expert in Teseftas. That's what I saw in those lines also. That he and this Rava, how do they translate Tesfa over there? Came from a place, Tesfa. Yeah. They don't translate Tesfa. In the Steinsaltz he translates Tesfa, and he says that he was an expert in Tesefta. He says to Ravina, "Ve'ema tarti copy, ve'ema tarti copy the tamri." Maybe you have to take two dates, two clusters of dates. It says kapasksin. Says it needs to be a kapas, which is a singular. Beimachada. Just say take one. Lahu kaf kaile. Says no, then it's not kapais. So what we're doing over here is we're taking the word kapais tamarim, we're spelling it without a vav. So we get to read it both ways. Kapas. It can't be two clusters. It can't be a kaf. It means that we need to have a branch, and that branch needs to be five. Ketzini Harabarzal, the palm trees of the Iron Mountain. What's Iron Mountain? How is that? What is that famous Iron Mountain? What is that? Is that a company of something? A shredding company. Yeah. So Amar Abaya, yeah, Dr. Stein's going to come up with a bunch of Iron Mountains. Let's see. Okay. Amar, it says it's kasha. Amar Abaya Leishan.
I just gave you the two clusters of.
The two clusters of dates. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It takes time. I have a delay here.
You see the clusters.
Oh, good job, Doctor.
Yeah, beautiful.
Give him a trophy.
You can look at it again.
Amar Abaya says Leishanu al Shreisha Salzeh Magil Tzadik Shulzeh. It's only talking about what are we referring to? Tzine Arabarzel is that you see what happened is it's a very poor soil. It's an iron mountain. There's not a lot of topsoil there, so it grows very. It's very, the leaves don't grow well enough. So we're talking about that the leaves hardly reach the branch above it. Yeah, it's supposed to overlap. The lower leaf is supposed to overlap the one above it. So it says it's only kosher el sheroisher shilzeh megil tzedikah shilzeh. At least it needs to cover the bottom of it. If the lower branch can't reach the branch right above it, then it's possible. Tanya Namiach was also taught in the Brisa. It says it's possible. But we said that it's kosher. It's a raya to abaya. That there's a difference depending on how big those branches are. Some suppose this as a contradiction, and they said it like this. Tanan. So in the Mishnah, I see Dr. Stein, Iron Mountains, rusty mountains. Tinia Barzal, the palm trees of the Har Barzal, kosher. They're kosher. But Tanya Psula, but it was also taught that it was possible. Amar Abaya like kasha, and Abaya comes to answer the contradiction. Contradiction Shalzeh Megil Tzedek Shalzeh. Contradiction Shalzeh Megil Tzedek Shalzeh. Amar Rab Miriam. Oh, you see that now? Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. So now Ataka comes in. Barmila Tana Rabba Bar Miriam Mishum Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. They tomorrow Yesh Begay Ben Hinnom. There were two date palms in the valley of Ben Hinnom, which is near Yerushalayim. And smoke would come out between them. And this is the place that when it speaks about Tzini Harabarzel Ksheris, that Tzini Harabarzel is kosher. This is the entrance to Gehenna. Now, in the Steinfeld he explains that this was a horrible place. It was a rocky cliff, and it was big. This is. Oh no, that was Hasasa. So, but he says that the term Gehenna was a borrowed term, but they borrowed it from either they borrowed this and they call Gehenna that it's like as bad as this place, or they call this place this is Gehenna, this is purgatory. It's Guy Ben Hinnom. Yeah, the valley of Ben Hinnom. Yeah.
It's right next to
It was dangerous.
It's right next to
Oh, really? So it's there. Okay, let's leave it over here. Okay.